I was born in Wimbledon, and people always sort of have this vision of Wimbledon as strawberries and cream and tennis. But the part I lived in, everyone was called O'Brien or Murphy or McGuinness or McCarthy.
Now, how did you come to be a member of the Roosters? Was that the first band, in actual fact, that you joined?
Oh, no, I'd been in various bands with school friends and things like that, playing in pubs in South London. But the Roosters came about because my then-girlfriend, who many years later became my wife, she was at art college with Eric Clapton. And I went to see a gig. Actually, I went for an audition with a band who were playing live, and I went along and sat in with them. And afterwards, I was just in the audience, and Jennifer said to me, "Oh, this is Eric. He's at art school with me. He loves the blues too." And we got talking, and we got a band together, a short-lived band. It lasted about 6 months in the middle of 1963. It was very haphazard and disorganized, as we were at the time, and for many years afterwards. It was an explosion in the early to mid-60s of bands, and particularly in London, rhythm and blues bands like the Stones and Manfred Mann and the Yardbirds, and the Roosters was part of that. But just it was a small tributary which never flowed into the big river in that case.
I think it was 64, wasn't it, when you joined Manfred Mann?
December 63.
Ah.
Just before 54321 became their first hit. Luckily for me, I hadn't even played on that recording. And I joined replacing Dave Richmond, who'd been their bass player up until then. I switched from guitar to bass at that point, and I joined very shortly afterwards, but not as a direct result of my joining. They had their first hit record.
I'm sure it had a lot to do with your arrival, though, Tom. I mean, the hits came and kept coming for many a long year for that band, didn't they? And then we played McGuinness Flint there, When I'm Dead and Gone, a classic, a number one, of course, from McGuinness Flint, and another all-star lineup in retrospect with Gallagher and Lyle and your Mr. Flint sidekick on the drums there. And, I mean, those were rather different days in the 1970s, but continued success, really.
Well, yeah, I have to tell you, Martin, when Manfred Mann, the group, broke up in 1969, I really thought that was it, you know, as my mother had been saying to me for ages, "Isn't it about time you got a proper job?" And I thought, well, I'm going to have to get a proper job. But luckily, Huey Flint was a neighbour of mine, and he and I thought it would be nice to get a band together. And we wanted very much to get a self-contained unit, not to have to be looking for songs outside the band. And luckily we met Gallagher and Lyle, who are a couple of great songwriters. There's a funny little interconnection there, Martin, between Eric Clapton, the Roosters, and When I'm Dead and Gone, because Eric Clapton's recorded a whole album of the work of Robert Johnson, the classic blues singer. And When I'm Dead and Gone was inspired by the life and music of Robert Johnson.
Fantastic.
I ought to be a DJ, shouldn't I, making connections.
I think you should, or perhaps producing, documentaries for television.
Which I have done, as you know, Mark. You've got the biography in front of you.
Well, no, I particularly remember the Jimi Hendrix, although that does feature in your biography and on your website. But I do remember the Jimi Hendrix South Bank show, and you've written books as well. You've been very busy over the years, haven't you?
Well, I like to keep busy, that's the truth. I mean, I don't want to sit around all the time, counting my money. I should be so lucky. But, no, it's nice it's not, I have to confess, Martin, that most of the things I've tried outside music, other people have said to me, why don't you? You know, it's not like I had a burning ambition to make TV documentaries. I was doing some music on a film in Ireland, and the assistant producer on it, a guy called Barnaby Thompson, he and I just hit it off, even though there was sort of 20 years difference between our ages, and we made a couple of documentaries together. But to be honest, when the first one got set up, and it was about a busking festival in the south of Ireland, in the town that my mother was born near, I just sort of was tagging along and saying to Barney, why don't you do this, do that. Anyway, he said, listen, we've got a deal to make it, and you're going to make it with me. You're going to produce and direct it with us. So there I was the first day of shooting with the cameraman sort of saying, okay, what do you want me to point the camera at? So I had to say, take a nice panoramic shot of the bay as an establishing shot. It was brilliant, but I would never have thought of doing it if it hadn't been for Barney.
Thank you so much for listening to this interview. If you enjoyed it, please click on the like button and ring that notification bell. And there are many, many more to listen to on this channel, so make sure you subscribe if you possibly can. Thank you.